what also is awesome is seeing one of our mid 8-figure partners share some of those LTV numbers. And really, like, this is what we preach to all of our partners when we run email and SMS. Like, we're not just delivering campaigns. We need to tie everything to how we're actually increasing retention rate and LTV. There's been a good amount of partners where the first month we could go in, save them the amount that what their investment is to us just on their Klaviyo bill in 1 month.
Subscription customers are anywhere from 2 to 4 times more valuable than a one-time buyer. We've seen a 25% increase in flow revenue year over year, even with the brand, slowing down some overall on the store.
I think it would be awesome if you could pull up that deck of what we did for them, so we can kind of walk through and show people like some things that we did. Again, this is for an 8-figure brand. They can't share the name, unfortunately. CPG space, large player in the retail game on TikTok and on ecom. On D2C. So specifically what we can run through is Xavier, the growth strategist on the account, can go through like some of the key methodologies and things that we've been doing over 16 months, 24 months. How long have we been with them?
Coming on 18, yeah.
Coming on 18, yeah. So that'd be great if you could pull that up and walk through, and then we can kind of like, dissect how we were able to get the numbers that we were able to get.
For sure. Yeah, so like Zach said, really, this has been a build that's like ideal scenario. This isn't a overnight thing, especially when you're looking at cohorts into 12 months plus. But we've been putting a ton of work since start of 2025 essentially into just improving retention for this brand. So again, we're not here to just do email. Email and SMS are valuable tools, and when we're looking at all the numbers ultimately that build up to the top, like purchase frequency, 1-year LTV, and retention rate by cohort are some of our guiding lights there. So we're really focused on building that actual life cycle. So what we essentially saw when we came to the mix of things was, and this is so common with so many brands, is kind of being stuck in this cycle of just campaigns, almost bringing in all the revenue for an account, in Klaviyo showing that split of attributed revenue, 90-10 potentially, versus our ideal scenario is anywhere from 50-50 to 60-40 either way. Obviously seasonality is going to affect things, but what we saw is just way too many discounts, with flows being not really present or not optimal, 1 to 2 emails per flow, and really just not having that automation system in place to have a brand that has great products and has a loyal audience. Just it's an awareness thing, right? If someone doesn't have that top of mind effect, they're not seeing your emails, they're not getting these different behavior based automations. Even if you have a great product, they may just forget to buy a second or a third time or stick around with it. So what we essentially saw over this 12 to 18 months of work is driving the flows, still campaign heavier just due to the nature of the brand, but as high in certain seasons, tripling it. So 22 is kind of average, but we consistently see a lot of 25 up to 30% months here. We've seen a 25% increase in flow revenue year over year, even with the brand, slowing down some overall on the store. But something that, both teams are very excited about is how strong of a pillar and bastion of revenue that retention side has been. Obviously, we all know, acquisition is a very challenging process for a lot of brands, especially if the space gets more competitive. So every single customer is more valuable, and us really focusing on that has been a super big value add to this brand. And again, I'll talk about this later as well, but deliverability, list hygiene, all of these kind of boring factors play a huge role here as well. So again, this has been lots of time in the works here. So coming up, cleaning things up in the accounts, whether it's turning off flows, turning on flows, fixing deliverability. Larger accounts oftentimes have really big buckets of bought emails, just useless profiles. That's something we consistently see with these 7 and 8-figure brands, is we can literally come in and save 4 to 5 figures a year with Klaviyo bills, just cleaning up profiles, removing SMS credits that aren't being used. So all really good wins off the bat. And then
sorry, Xavier, how often are you normally doing like list cleans? I know obviously when we get into a relationship, we dive into all the ones that are dormant, I guess you could say, that are just like adding a bill without adding any revenue. But how often are you doing it? Are you doing it like quarterly, every 6 months, every year?
Yeah, the big ones are kind of initial, and I would say the major cleanups are two to three times a year, especially after big sales events. However, we are monitoring things monthly, just due to the nature of some brands maybe higher volume of campaign sends. We kind of do this push and pull where we'll go heavy on campaigns, SMS and email, pull back so we're not paying an extra couple hundred or $1,000 a month because we sent more SMS. But usually, we like to do full list sends during BFCM or Memorial Day, these kind of anchor points for a brand, which again occur 2 to 4 times a year. Those are really the big ones where you can catch a lot of people and get clear insights in if someone's inactive, but still checking on things monthly can potentially save, a couple $100 a month. Because again, if you're engaged, if you're actively using your list, you can pretty quickly find out if someone's engaged or not.
Right. And these are like this is a very intricate brand. How many active flows do you think there are? And then of those flows, I mean, there's a million different branches based off of, customer path and journey and triggers. How many like emails, if you had to estimate, are like live within this hive of emails, would you have to say if you had to get an estimate?
Man, definitely in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Because take into account again brands of this size, like all the core flows, coming up on 10. You have all the subscription flows. So brands like Recharge, SKIO, they have a bunch of templates we customize. These are more kind of transactional updates for customers, but you definitely want them in place. Other apps we've seen work really well, like a Black Crow for predictive features. Those can add up. And then also something we found is also, again, like you said, mirroring splits, let's say for abandonment flows. You have ones for customers and non-customers because you don't necessarily have to give as many discounts for customers. There's obviously a bunch of different methodologies we found work, but yeah, definitely a couple dozen flows active, all tackling different issues, but plenty of active emails, which we can obviously see was kind of our focus throughout the rest of 2025. Overhauling welcome offers, that is one of the biggest kind of factors. List growth, efficiency of new customers. I mean, we've seen some crazy improvements in conversion rate, in AOV of new customers from changing the pop-up, changing the welcome offer, testing different apps for pop-ups. There's a bunch of different options here.
I was
But really,
at a later date, we got to go through some of like the main partners that we use with our partners for Klaviyo because they're getting so much better and the ROI to implement them is insane if used properly. So maybe we save that for a later conversation, but I think that'd be super valuable to people.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, all these apps are a couple $100 a month at most, and for a brand that's 7 or 8 figures, you're talking an extra 5 to 6 figures a year. So it's definitely
Yeah, doubling opt-in rate. It's crazy.
yeah. But then again, looking back here, really focused this past couple months in 2026 so far has been on that post-purchase journey even further. Pretty much throughout the rest of 2025, all kind of three of these points, and we'll talk more about subscriptions, have really been the anchor point. The brands really leaned into growing their subscription and loyalty program. We've been prioritizing that on our efforts across campaigns and flows, which again is what we end up seeing result in great improvements of retention and cohorts coming back. So kind of 6 core pillars here. Again, subscribe and save. If a brand doesn't have this, they're completely missing the point of the D2C e-com space in my eyes. Post-purchase flows, loyalty, launches, and just general campaigns, segmentation, deliverability, and then SMS all play a role here. So pillar number 1, again, subscriptions. What we've seen and heard from all brands is there's so many platforms to buy from, right? There's the Amazon, there's the TikTok shop, there's the in-person. And if your brand isn't making your website this bastion of loyalty, you're missing the game. Subscriptions, loyalty programs, just any reason for a customer to stick with you versus going to Amazon or going to a supplement store or any other physical place depending on your industry is the number one factor. So we've been prioritizing subscriptions on CTAs, on announcement bars. We've seen really good results across this partner and many others of subscription specific sales. So for a couple days, maybe a week, maybe a month, right? In January, we have definitely seen it not be as impactful, but seasons where a lot of people are undergoing transformations like a January, New Year's, really just lowering the friction for joining the subscription program, increasing the benefits helps a lot. Obviously, pushing subscriptions in your post-purchase flows for first-time, second-time customers has allowed this brand to grow subscriptions a ton, and that is something across the board with all of our partners. We're really even driving the ship with some of these guys, either launching subscription programs, overhauling the apps they're using, just really beefing it up, because it's shocking sometimes the loyalty some brands have without a subscription program in place. Like very strong LTV. And then if you toss in a subscription, I mean, I would say on average, we've talked to a lot of owners about this. We've seen the data, like subscription customers are anywhere from 2 to 4 times more valuable than a one-time buyer. So
yeah, I think people are shocked too at how, if you have a good funnel, obviously I know we're just talking about the back end stuff, but if you have a good funnel on the front end, you could have 30% of your first purchasers be on subscription from the get-go, and it's just lost revenue that turns into predictive revenue if just given the opportunity to subscribe, because if they're already taking your product, they're going to save the money regardless, and opt in.
Yeah, and this even builds to something I was talking about with Canon on another video we made with like the offer. Like obviously subscription has a lot of higher friction, but if you make it 20 times more just obvious of a choice than the one-time purchase, which we see with all these IMAs, Groons, all these brands of all sizes, it's definitely the route to go. So yeah, to summarize here, just pushing subscriptions all the time, educating people on it. Something very important to highlight here is it's beyond just like the discount and the free shipping. Obviously plenty of brands 10, 15, maybe 20 or even 25% off subscription orders, usually free shipping as well to try and combat the Amazon Prime-ification of things. But what we've seen, especially for these sales, is you have to educate people on the kind of follow-up benefits of subscribing, because ultimately someone's buying your product to solve a problem. So a subscription just solves that problem for longer and makes it easier. So you could hammer away, hey, we're giving extra savings on this subscription this week. That's still only going to convert the people who are already bought in, versus you educate people on, if it's a supplement, on the consistent benefits. We all know stuff takes weeks, if not months, to truly yield results. And you don't want to stop, because then you lose these benefits, right? Same thing with the convenience of any consumable product. Like it's that second level where we truly see people who aren't bought into the brand yet, versus you lowering the friction with a bigger discount usually gets more people that are already bought into your brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And at one point too, I want to jump on subscriptions before we move to the next, is how you're able to have predictability and how that will lead to you having a clearer picture on what you can spend to like really push scaling and acquiring customers. Because yes, even without subscription, you can have like retention data, but it's a lot less concrete and there's a lot more fluctuation versus like people who are actually opting in to subscribe. And if you can actually know how many dollars that you're going to be receiving, how many orders you're going to be receiving per product on a SKU basis, makes it really easy to forecast for like inventory and then forecast for spend for specific funnels or specific SKUs. So it really helps on the data side.
Yep. But yeah, subscriptions can't stress the importance of. Next up is post-purchase. So pretty obvious, but having a good experience for people, product aside, is critical. So this goes anything from thank you notes from the team or from the owner, depending on what your brand setup is. Having those post-purchase flows, which is something that's constantly iterating. Obviously, every brand, every industry is going to vary, but really prioritizing that first-time buyer and second-time buyer. If I had to kind of generalize things, those are the two biggest drop-off points. Once someone's 3 to 4 purchases in, usually it's a very small trickle from there. But if you can bulletproof that first-time buyer journey, especially, and then second time with things like cross-sells, things like replenishments, things like subscriptions. Again, this is where certain tools we found work really well for driving people more personalized recommendations. That can help a ton. And obviously you do want to prioritize looking at 30, 60, 90, 1 year retention, looking at your cohorts and seeing, are you actually getting these people to come back, whether it's one-time purchases or subscriptions, even more ideally. And then this does kind of tie into, again, the welcome offer and some other changes we made. Next up, kind of combining the two. So again, loyalty tying into even the subscription. Our most popular product that we work with partners is SKIO for subscription. I think a lot of people in the space are well aware of it since the biggest giants in D2C are using it. But one of our favorite factors on the retention side is how SKIO has their own loyalty program as well. It just makes everybody's life easier, to be honest. On our end, integrating flows, integrating messaging, into calling out how many points or dollars someone has in their account when you're doing a launch or a subscription reminder or whatever it may be. Just making that connection a lot easier. And then using that loyalty again, if we're talking, why would someone choose your website and your store over anything else? It's giving them those extra benefits. So whether it's gifts on their first subscription, whether it's incentivizing staying around with gifts every couple months, loyalty points, early access to things, right? Extending sales. So really pushing the boundaries of all the different benefits from all different angles someone gets from sticking with you on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis is really where, again, tying back to pillars 1 and 2, is we've seen some really awesome numbers in terms of launch days, sales, and people sticking around and buying time and time again.
Yeah, any like nifty loyalty things that you've seen? Obviously, we always talk about like gamifying the experience for the customers, but anything specific that comes to mind either for this partner or any other ones?
Yeah, definitely. Just similar to subscriptions and honestly any program, we as the people behind the scenes assume the customer knows everything. You could remind someone of the same thing 30 times, and this even ties a separate tangent like to campaign topics.
Oh yeah.
We all think everyone knows your 5 USPs. You could spin a slightly different email about the same USPs every month or every 2 weeks, and you'd still probably do well. People need to be reminded more than they have to be taught. So just us pushing the amount of rewards someone has and reminding them generally of their benefits. So whether it's in flows, whether it's one campaign a month or 2 campaigns a month, just educating people on your subscription or your loyalty program at a high level. These are all the different benefits you get. These are all the ways you can earn rewards. This is how many rewards you have in place. So let's say you have a product drop or a sale or a restock. You could send an email to people and say, hey, did you know we just dropped this product and you actually have XYZ amount you could spend in rewards on it to get it for even cheaper. Doing that, again, just making these people who are bought into you, are willing to give you their money every single month, giving them, just addressing them very personally and showing them appreciation is something we found work really well. And then, like I said, the non-sexy work here is absolutely critical, and I think something we're very efficient at and prioritize is good deliverability, prioritizing the best practices. So coming in, cleaning the account, monitoring things. Obviously, Klaviyo bills and everything like that, it's always going to vary depending on the size, but the principles of sending to people who want to be sent to, so those engaged audiences, 30, 60, 90 days, going wider, 365-day, maybe even full list, a couple times a year for big sales, drops, things like that. But for the most part, you're prioritizing no dead weight, you're maximizing deliverability, and then tying in SMS as well, obviously within flows, within campaigns. All of this stuff is really, really important to make sure that all of this stuff actually lands. If your deliverability is trash, people aren't going to see your email when they join your list. Your subscription flows aren't going to be hitting inbox. So this is the foundation of any efficient retention program. Thankfully, again, Klaviyo makes it very easy to see where you're at, whether it's your deliverability score, whether it's your open rate in different inboxes. We obviously prioritize Gmail, so that's where a lot of people utilize it. I would say on average it's 60-70% probably of the customer base. So just prioritizing that, good placement, good practices. Again, this is the number one step that we come into an account, we see if we can save you money by cleaning your list, and we see how much do we have to improve deliverability before we're like confident that 70% of people are going to open your welcome email when they join your list, type of thing.
Yeah, it's actually funny. Like, there's been a good amount of partners where the first month we could go in, save them the amount that we are worth, or
Yeah.
what their investment is to us just on their Klaviyo bill in 1 month. I think
Yeah.
it's super eye-opening with zero, if not a better ROI on the actual email and SMS platform that people
Yeah.
just don't see. I think people might be scared to like lose those accounts or lose those emails when they were never going to purchase in the first place, and they probably were not the ICP of the brand. Um, and maybe you could talk to us a little bit about how I think it's nice that we come in with like almost an objective scientific view, and we don't
Yeah.
necessarily they are just like they're just numbers on a sheet, and we're just seeing if they're actually going to move towards a purchase or if they're not. And it's not
Yeah.
just about flexing a list. We work with people who have millions on their email list, and if we can cut that in half, reduce the bill, we're going to do that every single time. There's
Yeah.
no point in keeping them.
Yeah, that's a very good point because it's absolutely an emotional attachment that I've had this conversation dozens of times over the last couple of years where I've seen this flywheel become faster and faster. And I think this is just obviously due to the speed of life. People consume content more, they churn out of things faster.
100%.
Just being honest, I've yet to see a good chunk of people who haven't engaged with your brand in over a year actually come back. Obviously, a small percentage will. That's again where you do these full list sends for BFCM, a massive product drop of the year, whatever it may be. But I could count on one hand the amount of times where a sunset flow or very non-engaged win back campaigns get more than a couple percent open rate. And obviously the factors there, you want to make sure deliverability is good so you're not landing in spam. But so if someone doesn't care about your brand, and obviously we have specific segments we do for this stuff, but if someone hasn't had any website activity and hasn't engaged with email or made a purchase or anything, even if they haven't been getting emails, because obviously it's very easy to neglect sending these people, even if they if they haven't visited your website in a year, are they even going to open an email or care about anything? Probably not. And that's just the harsh truth of it. Again, it's a like you said, we come in with an unbiased opinion here. I'm just here to save you money and make you more money. But there's so many brands that have racked up hundreds of thousands of dead accounts essentially over the years. That again, you can send as many emails as you want. I personally haven't found the detriment of deliverability to be worth the handful of people you bring back in, and that's my personal gripe. Like sunset flows, you're getting a 5% open rate and a couple people clicking, and that is very severely impacting your deliverability and reputation as a sender. So at that point, you might as well count your losses, do better work moving forward. And again, this is something where it's kind of been done, but I like to say like you use it or you lose it. So yeah, really past a year, it's a rough play, and you're better off just cutting your losses, saving the money, and focusing on future. How can you grow your list faster? How can you do things right moving forward?
Yeah. And yeah, another thing that, we're blessed to have some really good partners that I would say see the long-term vision of this, because this is very much a long game. When you're dealing with a partner who makes, $1 million a month just through email, there's so much data. So in order to have like a net gain when it comes to lifetime gross profit or LTV, it takes time. Like we've been with this person for 18 months. It takes time. It's not going to be like a 20% bump month over month over month. We're talking about like percentages that are stacking and compounding over 18 months. We've been, these numbers are from like basically like a year and a half of data, slowly growing LTV, slowly growing retention. Talk to us about like the partner relationship with these people, specifically kind of trusting our vision, really like letting us do our thing, and how time is a factor at this, and how we are constantly chipping away. And it's not just like a do it, set it, forget it thing, like everything in ecom.
Yeah, I think this one was a cool one because money coming in from email wasn't a concern per se. The wins were, are we actually getting people to come back and buy? And again, like you said, this is where trusting the vision of the year plus of work came into play. Obviously, we have dozens, if not hundreds, of success stories with attributed revenue, hitting a certain KPI or XYZ increase in sales. But those can come in faster. The true data is just, I mean, when you think about it, a 1 year cohort is going to take time to show the data. So that is just a matter of knowing what numbers to look at on the micro, but also the macro. Obviously, in terms of relationship, someone who trusts the strategy, they hired experts for a reason. They're open to new ideas, I would say. But also, our job is made a lot easier too when the brand is giving it their all. So they're constantly putting out new things. They're giving us ways to re-engage customers. I mean, like if a brand isn't putting in the effort to make a good subscription program or launch new products, and do things to again actually engage the customer, because we can do everything we need and have the flows in place. If your subscription program and loyalty suck, people aren't going to join. So it's definitely a two-way street here. Finding a sweet spot of testing new ideas while still obviously remaining within certain parameters. And then also, just again, knowing constant realignment on, every meeting we have, dedicated quarterly planning meetings, things like that. Just what is everyone's target, so we're all aligned and heading in the same direction. Again, is there, if certain changes or tests are being made and our attributed revenue goes down, no one's freaking out because we know that that's not actually what we're focused on. We know that email and SMS can generate revenue, especially if we slap on a massive sale on a campaign to 500,000 people. The core focus is, can we actually use this channel to your most loyal people to actually get them to come back and engage? So again, when we're talking like dedicating a handful of bandwidth to just completely different ideas, surveys to customers, fun gags, whatever it may be, but knowing what we're doing, trusting us, communicating daily, weekly, monthly, and just that constant, I think, alignment on like, what are you actually all working towards? If a brand is focused on more than D2C growth, like again, brands of this size, they're trying to push retail, they're trying to push other channels, Amazon, TikTok, whatever. So it's not being married, because again, if we're solely married to the attributed revenue on Shopify, Klaviyo dashboard, us sending a TikTok or an Amazon email is a direct, detriment to us. But we know that that's not how our partner is tracking our success.
Yeah. And even I would say, to wrap that up, it's like alignment on like what real expectations are. And that's why we take in as much financial data as we can for all of our partners. After this year of working together, or more year plus, you can clearly see like the lifetime gross profit is wider, and all that's doing is just widening the gap for them to spend more on acquisition or to spend more on more channels, like whatever it may be. Could be it's more gross profit for them to make a huge retail order or whatever it may be, to expand it to any other channels. But moral of the story is alignment and expectations, like true growth expectations, really with retention rate and lifetime gross profit in different cohorts, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and not just like in platform attribution. Although great, you got to look at the bigger picture. And then two, trusting our vision, and again, acting emotionless and letting the numbers kind of speak for themselves when it comes to just like pure ROI, when it comes to retention marketing. So I'll let you kind of wrap it up here, but I think this has been pretty valuable for people.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of hit on all the points. Again, if it's kind of summarized, this kind of slide covers it. But the programs have to be in place. The brand has to do their part. We are a supportive vessel, and we message this out into your audience. But it really comes down to just knowing exactly who you're talking to. Obviously, I think that's something we can really pride ourselves on, is understanding the customer, understanding the brand, and I mean, we do that for everybody. But knowing who you're talking to, and just also doing it consistently. I mean, we've put out a lot of SMS and email over the last 18 months here, but obviously it's all paid off. So
100%. Yeah, excited to see more of these wins flow through, and excited to see them fired up looking back at this data.
Yeah.
Cool. Hope y'all found that valuable.
Thank you.